Hello and welcome to the Optitude 360 videocast, where today we're exploring the world of collaboration and its impact on our personal and professional lives. I'm your host, Simon Childs, Managing Director of Optitude 360, and today we have a very special guest with us, Dr Deb Mashek, author of the book Collaborate. Dr Mashek is a renowned psychologist and relationship expert who applies the principles of relationship science to help people collaborate better. Her passion for collaboration stems from her belief that skilled collaborators build strong teams, and strong teams build successful organizations. With her award-winning teaching style, Dr Mashek engages audience with her wit, presence and clarity, encouraging openness and motivating action. Today, we will delve into a book and explore the world of collaboration and how it can benefit our lives. So let's get started. Dr. Mashek, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you for taking the time to join us and to share your insights with our listeners.
Thanks so much for having me, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here, and feel free to call me Deb.
Thanks ever so much, Deb. That's awesome. Deb, tell me, what inspired you to write a book on collaboration?
I was inspired to write the book in search for a solution to what I feel is a very perennial challenge, which is we know we need to collaborate. We know that our workplaces expect us to collaborate, but when you push people a little bit on how they feel about this whole collaboration thing, they'll share that it's a mixed bag, that sure, I know I need to do it, but it's hard to do it well. And so my challenge as a close relationships researcher was to say, what do I know about relationships that could be applied to this challenge of effective, efficient, rewarding workplace collaboration, and how can we make it less painful and more productive?
Awesome, awesome. That sounds really good. So, okay, what's the main message of your book on collaboration? What are you trying to get out there to people, Deb?
I think the answer to that is actually hidden in the title. So the title of the book is Collaborate, and that H in the hate word is hiding in these real little parentheses. And for me, it's about a bit of a whisper. It's about giving voice to those hard parts so that we can make collaboration less painful and more productive. And the only way to do that is by inviting some frank conversation about what it is about collaboration that's hard, how it goes wrong, what the frustrations are, and letting people have those realities, because this whole working together thing is actually really difficult to do well. So that's message number one. And message number two is that it's not rocket science. This is relationship science. This is about how can we create the relationships that enable us to bring our unique talents, our perspectives, to do together that which is that we're incapable of doing alone.
Of course, that sounds really, really good. Really, really good. Thank you. How does your book differ from other books on collaboration that are currently available? Clearly, there's a lot of books out there, but what would you say to the readers? Why should they read your book?
Great question. There are tons of amazing books out there, and I see this contribution as an addition, as something that would complement what's already out there. What's unique here is that I come at this question of how to collaborate better as a close relationships researcher. So that's novel. And this idea we can think about the close relationship that we're in, or rather just the relationship that we're in with our collaborators, is this very proximal context that creates or nudges collaborative behavior. You can get more of it or less of it, depending on the quality of those relationships, depending on how interdependent those relationships are. And I take readers through a model that it's a little embarrassing. I ended up calling it this very self-referential thing, which is the Mashek matrix, as a model for thinking about how to build effective and happy and efficient collaborations. And it really gets to this question of what happens when you have high quality relationships within the context of high interdependency, where you have teams that are sinking or swimming truly as a team. That's where you can get truly miraculous collaborations where the things we can do together far surpass what any one of us could have possibly done alone.
No, do you know, I completely understand where you're coming from. Tell me, just in terms of in terms of the way that the theory works, is it hard to implement?
It's not. I mean, I'll say it's harder to retrofit effective collaboration than to build it out of the gate. That said, a lot of our teams already exist, a lot of our workplaces already exist. But if I were putting a new team together, or if I'm onboarding a new person to an existing team, one of the real gems here is to focus first on integrating that person or those people together into their relationships before you start really structuring the work and figuring out how to measure, structure, and reward the intricacies of the workflows, for instance. What that means is at the point of onboarding, really allowing the breathing room for the people on the team to get to know each other as people, beyond just their like, here's my title, here's my role within this particular bit of work. And doing that then creates the foundation for this incredible amplifier of interdependence. And interdependence is simply the extent to which our or your outcomes are dependent on my actions and vice versa. So there's an interdependency there. And here's the thing, if you don't already have in place this high relationship quality, so you have low relationship quality, I don't know you, I don't trust you, I don't particularly like you, then if you also have high interdependency, that's a disaster. It's like my wagon is hitched to your ill-defined or ill-tempered horses, whether I want
True.
them to be or not. And that's a really difficult situation, to expect people just to be positive and fully contributing and at their best in terms of their innovation and their thinking. So we want to get people out of this quadrant that I call collaborate, and get them up to the space of being truly collaborate, typified by this high relationship quality and high interdependence.
Awesome. Thanks, Deb. Tell me, what are some of the challenges people face when they're trying to collaborate, and how does your book help them overcome these challenges?
For fun, when I was writing the book, I decided to list out all the ways that collaboration can go off the rails. And without really trying all that hard, I ended up with a list of 20, just off the cuff, things like, these will sound very familiar to your listeners. Things like people not doing what they say they're going to do, or they do this thing and it's really not what was agreed to, or I'm sure this will sound familiar. People who are like, it's my way or the highway. I somehow have the one right viewpoint on how we're going to do this thing, and either do it and go with me, or you're against me and I'm going to make it miserable. Or people stealing credit for other people's
Oh,
work, or taking blame for failures, or showing up to meetings unprepared, which is totally one of my annoyances, because it undercuts the ability of the team to actually move forward if everyone was supposed to. I mean, you can imagine, say we're gonna bake a communal cake, and you're supposed to bring the eggs, I'm supposed to bring the oil, somebody else is supposed to bring the flour, and we show up to our baking party and somebody didn't bring their dang ingredient. I mean, it really means that you can't move the project forward. And the same thing is true in our teams. And so, what this book does in terms of the contribution it can make is, first of all, it names what some of the problems are. And what's fascinating is the number of people who have already reached out. I mean, the book has been published a week at this point, who are already reaching out and saying things like, I didn't have words to describe why I really dislike working with that person. You've given me words. Or my favorite, as soon as I started reading that section, I had to put the book down because I realized I was being a bad collaborator on a big major project with a friend, and I was leaving her hanging. So I put the book down and I went and took care of the things I said I was going to do. I didn't realize the impact my inaction was having on the collaborator. So if nothing else, this book brings awareness to some of the challenges that are out there. Perhaps that awareness will spur some more productive action. But then more concretely, what I've done is, so I mentioned that, we have this Mashek matrix. What I've done is offered this DIY workshop that you can take yourself through and or your team through step by step. It's the same workshop I use with clients to say, where is your relationship? Let's assess it first. Let's figure out, where do you want to be? And then what are the specific moves that make sense within your context to get you there? And so I list out the moves and I describe how you would use them. And so it ends up being a playbook for transitioning your relationship from where it is to where you want it to be. And one of the things that I struggled with when writing the book was this insight of course, ideally, everybody on the team is in on the solution, that this is something you do together, that surely everybody knows this is not working. How can we work together to make it better? But realistically, that's not always going to be possible. You end up with people who, you can't really all work together. This is part of the problem. We can't all work together. So one of the things I ended up doing was thinking through, what are the things you could do alone? What levers could you pull if you had to by yourself? Which is important because in any of our relationships, whether we're talking about at the workplace or on the home front or out in community settings, we have to own our own responsibility
Of course.
for
Yeah.
whatever is going on, whatever is unfolding. And so I start with the self for a lot of these solutions.
So I have a like a further question just off this one, because having read the book, I mean, the book is awesome. This is what this is this is by far the best treatise that I've come across on collaboration. In terms of the corporate world, that you and I both address, what sort of players do you feel should be looking or reading or taking advantage of, like the Mashek matrix and this awesome publication? I mean, to me, we're talking about the HR directors, we're talking about the managers, we're talking about the people that lead other people, we're talking about the team leaders. I don't know how you feel about these sort of things. I mean, do you feel that change needs to come from the top down?
So first of all, thank you for your kind words about the book. It's so fun to know that people are actually reading it at this point. So that's a thrill. Number two, so thinking about who should care about this, there's another really fascinating disconnect here. So at the top, we know that, of course, our executive teams worry about bottom lines. They worry about profit. They worry about things like, wow, why are we having all of this turnover? Um, but what they're probably not as worried about is that the day-to-day angst experienced by their individual contributors who don't like working together, who are taking that stress home, who are losing sleep because they have to come back and work with Simon, or something like that. So there's a disconnect between where some of your lead indicators of a collaboration problem are, i.e., the well-being of your people, and the downstream impact that's having on your organization. So who cares about this? I think well, clearly it should be everybody. But if you're an executive and you're thinking through, wow, we've noticed problems with the quality of our solutions, the responsiveness to our clients or our customers, these really simple things like the baton passes of information or the extent to which that database is talking to that database, or the frustrations that your sales team is having with your marketing team or vice versa. All of those things, those are people problems, and they are creating product problems, which are hurting your bottom lines, your timelines, your innovation, all those sorts of things. So my recommendation is to think very broadly about how we can assess the culture of collaboration within our organization, find those hot spots, find those pain points, because pretty much all of those people problems are bubbling up because I think, and again, I'm totally biased here, those people problems are indicators of collaboration problems. And so if we can go in, figure out where they are, pull the right levers, get those moving. It's almost like the gears in the clock. You don't want them to be all like crusty and rusty such that the gears can't even move. We need to go in there, clear out the rust, the dust, all the things that will help the organization function more effectively, more efficiently in service to the bottom line that you truly do care about, while at the same time protecting and in fact enhancing the well-being of those individual people. So HR, absolutely, the executives, the COO, everybody, um, everybody who cares about the health and wealth of the organization should be thinking about collaboration.
I have as we're talking about this, the topic is so interesting. I wonder, have you considered the cost of the amount of time that is lost through people not collaborating? I don't know whether you know, in your research, you come across statistics in and around this sort of area.
So I would love to work with a business economist to figure out how to put the dollar values on all of these
Sure,
things. But here
sure.
are the things that I know are costly to the organization. We know that if you ask people, have you ever thought about leaving a job because of the workplace relationships? The numbers are astronomical. Let's imagine a small fraction of those people actually leave the job. That means that we have downtime on the team where there's some skill or capacity that's not actually in place. So now we have to have those steep rehiring costs, and not just to hire the person, but while we wait for them to get up to speed to be able to contribute fully to the team. So that's certainly a cost. If we have clients who are dissatisfied, who are feeling like, man, they said that was going to be a, you know, a 2 month project, and here we are on 6 months. I'm not happy. So there's a cost to your reputation takes a hit. Now I'm talking about you as somebody, as an organization that doesn't actually get its stuff done. You probably also lost me as a client. So there's the long-term loss of profit. There's the idea that if we're not creating the context where people can truly bring their innovative ideas, where they can pressure test each other's ideas without fear of retribution or retaliation, then we're missing out on the opportunity for the best ideas to bubble up, which means, you know, we're probably not taking the market by storm if with our great innovations, because the great innovations are staying in people's heads because we haven't created the context for them to truly bubble up. So I don't know what the dollar figure is, but gosh, when I run all the scenarios in my head of how collaboration can undercut an organization, I see red glaring red flags.
How can individuals improve their own collaboration skills? And what role does emotional intelligence play in the big scheme of things?
So for me, one of the most important individual capacities is the storytelling we tell ourselves or the stories we tell ourselves when somebody else does something or they don't do something. And, you know, our brains are storytelling machines. It's really easy for us to fill in the gaps with a lot of conjecture about, you know, that person being incompetent or, gosh, they don't follow through on anything. They're just lazy. I mean, the words that we can throw around absolutely set the tone for the emotional experience that we're going to have subsequently. So I think one of the most important things is to slow down the storytelling and ask people about the behaviors that you're seeing. I noticed you were on the phone during the meeting. I felt like maybe you weren't listening to what I said or didn't value my contribution. I'm curious, how do you see it? So open up the conversation. Like let's figure it out. So I think that's one of the important individual strategies. Another one that comes to mind is I think we forget how our expectations are not necessarily everybody else's expectations. So it's, you know, we throw this word alignment around. I don't think we have alignment on what the term alignment means, which is another kind of problem. But this idea of how do you want to work together? What does effective teamwork actually look like for you? And it can be like ridiculously simple stuff. Where are we storing our files in Google, or are we going to use Dropbox? Are we going to use Simon's Office? There, you know, there's a three drawer file cabinet over there. Maybe we should just shove
Absolutely.
things in there. What about
Awesome.
response time? Do we expect, if I send you an email, do I expect you to respond in 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 weeks? it's not that there's one right answer. It's that there's a problem if everybody on the team has a different answer and is behaving differently, and it gets under my collar, and I get really, really annoyed with you and start again making up those stories. So those are just two examples of the very individual level of things that we can work on to smooth collaborations.
You see, I think that this notion of storytelling is really, really important because, again, our memories have a habit of being creative. And over a period of time, I mean, I can see how these things can proliferate for organizations. I can see how certain teams could suddenly get a bad reputation for, just something small that's happened that's just blown right out of proportion. So really, really interesting. Fantastic. Um, just on this notion of um, trying to get people to communicate and trying to get people to work together. I've worked in some toxic environments in my time with people that could barely bear to be in the same room as each other. I'm just curious, what would you do in that sort of situation? What sort of things do you recommend? Because my sense of this is, I think that some of the problems that we're discussing today are really quite widespread. I'd really love to get your opinion.
And it's interesting too, because, we think about at the point of hiring, of course, we're looking for smart people, competent people. And this idea of like, is this somebody who can work together? So just because, we read somebody coming in the door as, oh, they're going to be a great team player, that may or may not be. But when you get them together with a particular other person, there are just certain combinations of people that it's oil and water, and they're both lovely people. They're both smart and competent, but something's not clicking between them. And I wish more managers, directors, and whatnot were willing to say, you know what, let's pull them apart. I mean, we can send them to intervention, we can send them to HR to get some sit down. That may or may not work. I mean, I've certainly seen organizations spend a ridiculous amount of time and money trying to get these two people to work together. Sometimes we need to pull them apart, decrease the interdependence, and then maybe they can have the headspace and heart space to start learning about each other. And I, in the book, talk about this. Really, I think it's such a lovely parallel of, imagine you have a couple who's married and they get to the point where they're like, we are miserable, we want to get a divorce. And maybe they go and, sit down with the therapist. The therapist, if their big advice is like, you know what you guys should do? You should go do a trust fall, or you should go have dinner together. That's going to make your relationship great. No, I don't want to be around you. You're really annoying to me right now. I want distance from you. And what the therapist will more likely recommend is look for ways to decouple for a little bit, whether it's one person moves to the basement or somebody gets a smaller flat for a couple months to move apart so that you can actually start improving the relationship quality before you bring people back together again. And so looking for the creative solutions, because this whole idea of like, well, you just have to work together. I get it, but if it's not working, it's not working. So what other solutions can we bubble up?
How does collaboration impact problem solving and decision making? In your opinion, what are the key factors for ensuring successful collaboration in both personal and professional settings?
I love this question because it lets me point out one of my favorite truisms, which is that each of us as individuals are limited by the fact we're humans. So no single one of us has cornered the market on the right perception or the right way to look at it. And we're on video, so I'm going to show you this little gadget I have right here. This is see if my light will show you, this is the ambiguous cylinder optical illusion. And it's clearly one solid object, but if you turn it, it switches from looking like boxes to looking like
Oh,
cylinders. Do you see
I
that?
see.
It's
Yeah.
really cool, but it's clearly just one solid object, but it gets to this metaphor of because I am limited by my one vantage point. If I truly want to understand the above, the below, the left, the right, the 360, the sphere of any particular problem, any particular object, any particular area of inquiry, the only way I can do that is in relationship with other people, either literally sitting around the conversation room or by reading their thoughts, by engaging with their perspectives. And so, if you want solutions, as I know we all do, to the world's trickiest problems, if we want the boldest, the brightest, the most unexpected innovations, we're not going to get it from any one person. It's like that's just not the way it happens. It happens in conversation, in communication, in collaboration. And so I think the words that are coming up for me here are intellectual humility and curiosity. So we need to start from this understanding of course, I don't have all the right answers. I have a perspective and I have an obligation in this workplace where, they've hired me to bring my perspectives to put those perspectives into the shared bucket of knowledge, but also to put them into constructive tension and constructive conversation with other people's perspectives so that we can create this emergent thing that is called the solution, the innovation.
Thank you, Dr. Mashek, for joining us today and sharing your insights on collaboration. That was absolutely awesome. Your book, Collaborate, is a valuable resource for anyone looking to improve their collaboration skills. You can find a link to Dr. Mashek's book at the end of this video, and we appreciate you for taking the time to share your ideas with us. Thank you.
So much for the opportunity, Simon. It was a pleasure to be here and to be in conversation with you.
Fantastic. And, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule, from the launch to be here. It has been an absolute pleasure. So once again, I'd just like to say thank you from all of the staff at Optitude. Thank you. If you're interested in learning more about Dr. Mashek's book, Collaborate, it is available for purchase on Amazon, and I understand major book retailers too. You can also find more information about the book, including excerpts and reviews, on Dr. Mashek's website that again will appear at the end of this video. Don't miss out on this valuable resource that provides insight and practical tips on how to improve your collaboration skills. Get your copy today and start your journey towards successful collaboration. That's a wrap for today's episode, where we've explored the world of collaboration and its impact on our personal and professional lives with expert insights from Dr. Debra Mashek. Amazing job. Thank you, Deb. I'd like to thank our team at Optitude 360 for their collaboration too in making this video possible. Optitude 360 is a leader in executive search and psychology. We specialise in leadership recruitment. We understand the importance of collaboration in leadership, and that's why we are dedicated to helping organisations to reach their full potential through first-class leadership talent. Remember, strong leaders build strong teams, and strong teams build successful organisations. So if you're looking to improve your organisational structure, if you're looking for leaders, check us out at Optitude 360. But for now, guys, until next time, stay safe. I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Bye.